Okay, today we'll be replacing a toilet, which is actually straightforward and easy to do. I'm not a licensed plumber, but you really don't need to be in order to do this. It's fairly easy, and we'll just kind of walk through the steps here. First thing that you're going to want to do is turn the water supply off to the toilet, which is just usually right back here. There'll be a valve or a knob like this. So we'll just twist that to the right, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, until it's tight. Second thing you're going to want to do from there is get the water drained from your toilet here. So you'll go ahead and you'll just flush it. And as you can probably assume, it's not filling up because you just turned the water off. But you're going to want to hold this open to try to get as much water out of the tank as you possibly can. It is now, the water line is now below the drain valve there. So you're still going to have a little bit of water in the tank and as well as in the bowl itself. Now, it's up to you on how you want to do this, but a lot of times what I'll do is just go ahead and get the tank and everything removed. And then what I did is I have a couple of large contractor garbage bags. I'm just going to put the tank in one bag, the bowl in the other, in case when I carry it outside, the water doesn't spill out all over the floor. So, second piece then, you'll want to go in and remove the bowl or the tank from the bowl itself. Now inside, there's three little what look like flathead screws there. You're just going to go ahead and loosen those up, and this might probably be different from each model, but you'll loosen those three up and the bowl is going to pop right off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Each toilet's a little bit different, so those three screws that I was mentioning, they actually have on the underside, there's small nylon nuts that are under there that you can feel with your hands, and they're just actually hand tightened. So you'll just take them off and just getting this one off here. So this is kind of what they look like. They're just hand tightened plastic nuts here that you can go ahead and just take off, and the bowl will go ahead and pop off. But before, I forgot to mention, also after you turn the water off right down there, you're going to want to disconnect the water supply line that goes into the bottom of the bowl, and that also should just be hand tightened. You shouldn't really have it cranked down at all. Hand tighten is just fine. So the water supply line just comes off there. I usually use a towel or something like that underneath just to grab some of the little excess water that may fall out so you don't get your floor completely wet, but that's just another piece there. So we'll go ahead and get the tank here removed, and then we'll come back and show you the bowl. So you can see the tank just lifts right off. There's the 3 bolts as I was mentioning there. So we have the bowl here, very easy. These little caps just come right off, and then you just will twist off the bolt here. Each one is a little bit different, but usually most of them will have this already integrated little piece here that you don't even really need tools, but these bolts will just twist right off, and you lift the bowl directly off of the platform. And when that comes off, you're going to see the hole into the floor, the drain hole. I usually will plug that until I'm ready to go ahead and put the new toilet back on, but we'll show you that here in a bit. Well, we got the toilet out as shown before. I went ahead and cleaned up the existing wax ring that was on here. You can still see a little bit of the yellowing from the old wax. Now, instead of using a traditional wax ring, I'd like to use something like this. So it's you find it at any home improvement store, obviously made by Fluidmaster, but it's so much easier than wax, because if you get if you reposition it wrong or reposition the toilet wrong or anything like that, you can't, on a wax ring, you really can't reposition. You have to start all over. This is, and the product is right here. So it's a just all rubber, and then it's got a gasket on the bottom. Now, depending on how your floor sits, how your floor sits in relation to the flange here, you might need a spacer, which is included with that, with this whole kit and everything. So, but the first thing that you need to do is put the bolts in. They just slide in like this. Now, they do look pretty long, but that's obviously just based on the type of toilet and everything like that you have. We're gonna end up cutting, probably cutting some of these, cutting them off here once I get the toilet installed and everything. But from there, we go ahead and just put on the. We have to use these little wax, or plastic washers here. They just slip right over the top of these, and you got to be careful not to get it down in the hole. Those plastic washers, and it'll just kind of hold the bolt in place then. Then from there, we are ready the way that it is. Then I'm just about flush, maybe about 1/4 inch or so below the floor surface. So we can go ahead and use just this existing one here. We don't need to have the other extension, but it can, if you sit a lot lower, if your flange here sits quite a bit lower than your floor, then you're going to need to use that spacer. But in this case we won't, so it just slips over like this, and you just go ahead and you'll position the rubber right inside here, so it's not hung up on anything, and just making sure that it's all even. Now this is ready to go ahead and accept the toilet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that next, and be right back. So a little bit of a correction on what I was just saying. Actually, this since this flange, the white part here, is not above the floor, I did need to put this other spacer in, so it does come with the kit. Now, if you do have something that's more than 1/4 inch below your floor surface, then you're going to need to buy a second kit, but they are completely stackable. So with just about even width, or just about 1/4 inch below the floor, I had to use this spacer. Then the next one just sits right on top of it, like so. Now it'll be ready to accept the toilet, which I will be doing now. Well, I got the toilet on here, and you go ahead and see here, I covered up the bolts and stuff like that, but each toilet's going to be a little bit differently. But it should be noted that with that ring that I used, that seal ring that I used, the toilet did sit up a little bit higher, and you could feel a lot of play in it. But the foam pieces, those rubber foam pieces that go underneath there that you saw that I stacked, those will compress. So you do need to crank down the bolts that are in here, those bolts. You crank those down, but not too hard. So the rule of thumb, or the trick is, with that, is to crank it down so there's no more play in the toilet. So when you wiggle it and move, there's no movement or anything, then you know you have it tight enough. Otherwise, if you go too tight, you're probably going to break the white flange that actually mounts to the floor, and you'd have to go ahead and replace that. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and put the tank on. It's very simple. There's 3 bolt holes in the back of the toilet, and you can see those 3 black, 1, 2, 3 black nuts right there. And if we go underneath the toilet, you're going to see, hopefully you can see this, but you'll see the nuts right there. That's one of them. And then we'll just use the included washers and nuts that come with it, which are right here. We go ahead and secure it down, and again, not to over tighten them, but enough to where you're not going to get any water leakage from the tank. Those will these will go ahead and compress. You can kind of see they're raised up. There's rubber underneath that. Those are going to go ahead and compress and then seal that off so there's no leaks when the tank gets filled. So we'll go ahead and do that and check back. Well, we went ahead and put the tank on, went ahead and cranked everything down. As I mentioned, those 3 bolts there, the rubber bolts, they need to be in contact with the bottom of the tank. You'll know what I'm talking about when you get in there and actually start tightening things down. The gap, at least on this model, this is a Kohler, there is supposed to be a gap in between the tank and the bowl. Then I went ahead and I attached the water line, which is relatively simple, but what I will tell you is to go ahead and make sure you get anytime you're replacing a toilet, get a new water line. So you never know when those things are going to leak. I personally like these braided ones. They hold up very, very well. But I already did a couple of flushes and no leaks, so we should be good to go. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.